The Ryco X111R engine protection kit for the Nissan Navara D23 NP300 comes complete with the Ryco Z980K series fuel water separator and RCC 351 series catch can, as well as specifically moulded hoses, brackets, fuel lines and hose clamps, all engineered for a neat install that looks like it could have come this way from the factory. As always, we recommend that this kit is installed by a qualified mechanic with the procedures shown in this instructional video. The first step is fitting the mounting bracket located on the passenger's side of the engine bay behind the battery. Begin by removing the two nuts securing the factory wiring harness bracket. Now, locate the threaded hole on the sidewall. Position the bracket in the engine bay as shown, placing the lower part of the bracket onto the factory studs and the top leg of the bracket to the side wall. Refit the factory wiring harness bracket on top of the Ryco bracket foot. Loosely refit the factory M6 nuts onto the studs at the bracket foot and then fit the supplied M6 bolt and washer onto the sidewall and tighten all fasteners. The bracket should have no movement and feel secure. Next, we'll prepare the Z980 fuel water separator for fitment. You'll need the two blanking plugs supplied with the fuel water separator kit and the two quick connectors supplied with the Ryco kit. Identify the side of the fuel water separator head to be blanked off by dummy fitting it in place as shown. Apply the supplied sealant to the thread of the blanking plugs and to the quick connectors. Fit them and ensure they're tight. We recommend placing the head into a bench vise to complete this part of the installation and allow at least 20 minutes for the Loctite to cure. Now it's time to install the fuel water assembly onto the Ryco bracket using the two black M10 bolts and washers supplied. Make sure both bolts are done up tight. Locate the Navara's fuel inlet hose at the factory fuel filter. Squeeze the tabs and disconnect from the factory fuel supply line from the factory filter. Have a rag ready to capture any diesel that may spill out of the fuel line and the fuel filter. Connect the factory fuel supply line to the input port on the Ryco fuel water separator. Press firmly until you hear a click. We'll now prepare the Ryco fuel hose. Install the supplied hose clamps and elbow connectors onto each end of the fuel hose. One elbow connector opening is now facing downwards and another one is facing the radiator in a horizontal position. Install the fuel hose by connecting the horizontal facing elbow connector onto the outlet of the Ryco fuel water separator until you hear a click. Do not connect the other elbow connector to the factory fuel filter yet. You'll need an assistant to help prime the fuel system. Place a container under the unconnected elbow connector. Prime the fuel system by turning the ignition to on position, but do not crank the engine. Wait until the fuel comes out of the elbow connector. Turn off the ignition and connect the elbow connector to the factory fuel filter. The final step for the fuel water separator installation is to start the engine and inspect the hose, filter and fittings for any fuel leaks. Before mounting the catch can, loosen the 4 retaining screws of the RCC 351 and rotate the head 90 degrees to ensure the catch can upper port is facing the windscreen and the lower port is facing towards the engine. Now mount the catch can onto the bracket by sliding the RCC 351 nylon bracket onto the catch can mounting location. It's time to install the catch can by inserting the plastic bracket as shown. Rotate the catch can slightly in its plastic bracket so that the ports clear the airbox and point towards the engine PCV port. Locate the factory PCV hose and loosen the OEM hose clamp located at the engine PCV port. Remove the OEM PCV hose from the engine port and remove the OEM hose clamp from this end of the hose and replace it with the supplied Ryco hose clamp. Now fit the supplied hose clamps to both the supplied Ryco moulded PCV hoses, noting that the hoses have different sized ends. Install the elbow end of the Ryco moulded hose onto the engine PCV valve and feed it along the back of the engine, ensuring it also runs under the factory fuel pipe. Connect the larger end to the lower port of the RCC 351, securing both ends with the supplied hose clamps. Connect the shorter end of the Ryco moulded hose onto the upper port of the catch can as shown and route the moulded hose behind the metal factory fuel filter bracket and on top of the other PCV hose as shown and secure both ends with the hose clamps. Connect the longer end of the moulded hose with the supplied hose joiner and secure with the supplied hose clamp. Finally, connect the factory PCV hose onto the other end of the hose joiner and ensure it's secured. Make sure all the Ryco supplied moulded hoses aren't squashed and are free of any kinks. Lastly, inspect that all hose clamps are secure. To install the drain hose, remove the drain plug from the bottom of the catch can, take out the rubber seal from the plug and refit. Insert the drain hose and secure it with the supplied clamp. Insert the hose drain tap to the other end and use the zip ties to secure the hose. To drain, pull back the red section until all oil has drained out.